The chandelier light glimmered off cut crystal glasses, painting the white tablecloths in soft gold. It was the kind of restaurant where every sound was polite. The hush of silk dresses, the clink of silver, the low murmur of men who knew the price of everything and the value of nothing. At the corner table, where the window gave a perfect view of the Dallas skyline, Raymond Calloway was in his element. He was a big man in every sense, broad-shouldered, with a tanned face that still carried the swagger of a man who'd struck oil and never stopped bragging about it. Laughter rolled out of him like thunder, the kind that filled the room and made heads turn. Across from him sat two young investors, both trying hard to match his energy, their grins a little too eager, their glasses never empty. "Gentlemen," Raymond said, swirling his bourbon, "money's like women. It doesn't come to the timid." The table erupted in laughter. He leaned back, pleased with himself. That was when she approached. "Good evening," said a calm voice. "Welcome to the Marlowe. May I take your order?" The voice didn't match the room's tone. It wasn't shy or flirtatious or mechanical like the other waitresses. It was poised, warm but measured. Raymond looked up, and his grin faltered slightly. The waitress was young, mid-20s maybe, with dark hair tied neatly back and eyes the color of coffee stirred with cream. Her uniform was crisp, not a wrinkle on her. But there was a dignity to how she stood, back straight, pen poised, like someone who'd once stood in front of far grander people. Her name tag read, Maria. Raymond looked her up and down, the grin returning, slower this time. "Now there's a voice that doesn't belong behind a tray." Maria smiled politely, pen hovering above her pad. "And yet here I am, sir. May I start you with drinks?" The investors chuckled. Raymond leaned forward on his elbows, eyes glinting with mischief. "Now hold on. That accent, where you from?" "Seville," she replied simply. "Spain, Spain." Raymond slapped the table. "Well, that explains it. I've been to Spain, beautiful place. Didn't understand a damn thing anybody said." Maria's lips curved faintly. "Perhaps you weren't listening closely enough." One of the investors stifled a laugh, nearly choking on his wine. Raymond's grin tightened. "Feisty," he said. "I like that." She didn't respond, simply stood there waiting for the order, patient as stone. He leaned back, crossing his arms. "Tell you what, darling, you serve me in English, perfect English, all through dinner, and I'll pay you $1,000. He slapped the table again, the sound sharp in the quiet air. "How's that for a tip?" The younger men laughed, the kind of laughter that tried to hide discomfort. Maria blinked once. "That won't be necessary, sir," she said softly. "I speak English perfectly well." "Oh, I bet you try real hard," Raymond said, chuckling. "Go ahead then. Impress me. Take my order. But do it properly." Something flickered in her eyes, something small and dangerous, the kind of spark that lights without warning. But her voice stayed calm. "What would you like this evening, sir?" she said, her pronunciation crisp, every syllable sharp as glass. "The specials are roasted duck with orange glaze, filet mignon or grilled sea bass with herb butter. The duck is highly recommended." Her tone was clear, flawless. Not just fluent, elegant. Her English carried the faint rhythm of someone who had studied it deeply, not as a language, but as an art. The laughter at the table stuttered to a stop. Raymond blinked, caught off guard. "Well, well," he said, shifting in his chair. "You got some polish on you. Where'd you learn to talk like that?" Maria's expression didn't change. "At the University of Salamanca, sir. And later at the Sorbonne." The name hit him like a slow bullet. "The Sorbonne?" "In Paris," she clarified gently. "Perhaps you've heard of it." The younger investors exchanged glances. Raymond cleared his throat. Sure, of course." He picked up his drink, trying to recover. "So you went to fancy schools and ended up waiting tables. What happened?" Maria gave him a small smile. "Life, sir." Her calm unnerved him. He took another sip, trying to turn the moment back to humor. "Well, I'll be damned. Maybe I owe you a raise on that bet. You speak any other languages, sweetheart? She tilted her head slightly. You mean besides English? Yeah. Let's see what else that tongue can do, he said with a half laugh that made his companions glance down uncomfortably. The next evening, Raymond Calloway found himself back at the Marlowe. It wasn't his usual pattern. He didn't go to the same place 2 nights in a row. But something about the quiet grace of that waitress, the one who'd made him feel smaller than he'd been in 20 years, lingered in his mind like a half-remembered melody. The maitre d' greeted him with the same polished smile as before, but there was a flicker of surprise when Raymond asked for the corner table again, the same one where he'd made his foolish bet. He didn't come with investors this time, no laughter, no whiskey-fueled arrogance. Just him, his hat in hand, and the thought that maybe, just maybe, he owed someone an apology. He sat down, ordered coffee instead of bourbon, and waited. The restaurant had the same soft murmur of voices, the same clinking of cutlery, but tonight he heard it differently, gentler, quieter, as if the world itself had lowered its voice. When Maria appeared at the far end of the room, carrying a tray with 2 glasses of wine, he straightened in his chair without realizing it. She hadn't noticed him yet. She moved with that same quiet confidence, the way a dancer does when the music lives in her bones. When she finally looked his way and saw him sitting there, her expression didn't change. Not surprise, not annoyance, just calm acknowledgement. "Good evening, Mr. Calloway," she said when she reached his table. "Back again so soon?" He tried for a smile, but it came out lopsided. "Guess I missed the duck." Her eyes flicked to the menu she carried, then back to him. "Or maybe you missed the lesson." He exhaled, a short, self-deprecating laugh. "You're not wrong about that." He paused. I wanted to apologize for the way I spoke to you yesterday. That wasn't right." She looked at him for a long moment, the silence between them thick but not hostile. "You're not the first man to make assumptions," she said at last, her voice even. "But I appreciate that you came back to say it." He nodded, looking down at the silver spoon on the table, tracing its curve with his thumb. "Truth is, I ain't used to being made to look like a fool. But you didn't do that. You just reminded me I'm not the smartest one in every room." That earned him the faintest smile. That's a rare thing for a man to admit. Raymond chuckled softly. "Yeah, maybe I'm learning." Maria straightened a folded napkin beside his glass, her movements deliberate and graceful. "Would you like to order dinner, Mr. Calloway?" "Not yet," he said, glancing toward the piano tucked in the far corner of the restaurant. "You mind if I ask you something first?" She followed his gaze, then looked back at him warily. "Depends what it is." "That piano," he said. "You play?" For the first time since he'd met her, she hesitated. "I used to." "Why'd you stop?" Her eyes softened, shadows flickering behind them. "Some things don't belong to you anymore once life changes," she said quietly. "Playing used to make me feel free. But freedom's a luxury, isn't it?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, guess it is." There was a pause, the kind that held more truth than conversation. Then Raymond leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You know, I used to be a piano man myself." "Not good, not like you probably were, but my wife." His voice caught, the sentence faltering. "She played every night. Said music was a prayer you could hear." Maria's face softened. "She must have been a kind woman." "She was," he said quietly. "Cancer took her 3 years ago." A long silence fell between them, not awkward, just full. Maria nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry." Raymond looked up at her then, really looked, and for the first time saw not a waitress, not a woman who'd humiliated him, but a person carrying her own kind of sorrow. "You said you used to play," he said gently. "If you don't mind me asking, why are you here, waiting tables?" She hesitated, eyes flicking toward the kitchen doors before settling on him again. "Because sometimes a degree doesn't feed you. Languages, art, music, they're beautiful, but they don't keep the lights on. I came here to help my brother through school back home. This job pays for his tuition." He sat back, a slow respect forming in his gaze. "So you work double shifts, put up with men like me, just to give him a chance." "Something like that," she said simply. He nodded, his jaw tight. "Then I was more of a fool than I thought." She smiled faintly, the edge of her reserve softening. "You weren't cruel, Mr. Calloway, just careless." "There's a difference." He swallowed hard. "Still feels the same." Her eyes flicked again toward the piano. "You said your wife used to play."